I'm Nicole Jones, host of Mediocre to Masterful, a podcast teaching you how to go after your goals that you've pushed to the side. This is a resource to help you be fearless with your goals and familiar with the feeling of success. This podcast includes best practices to elevate your goals in multiple areas to help you pursue mastery over your life. Hey guys, one thing to note. Before we get started on this episode, the Smart PMP has now evolved to Women of Project Management. So throughout this episode, you will hear the title, the Smart PMP. Just know that has changed to Women of Project Management or at Women of PM on Instagram. I'll be sure to include all their information in the show notes so you can follow them on all their social media platforms. Enjoy this episode. I am here with Asya Watkins, project manager with 20 years of healthcare and pharmaceutical experience. She is also the former director of project management mentorship program for PMI, the Project Management Institute, here in Atlanta, Georgia, and also the creator of the Smart PMP. Asya has truly become, I would say, a beacon for women and minority women in that space in project management across the world. Throughout. And the Smart PMP, believe it or not, there are no platforms that I'm aware of, that Asya's aware of, that really hosts and uplift women in the industry of project management. So kudos to you for building this. And Asya, I'm just like over the moon that you're here with me and share this space with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'm just very excited because, one, I am a project manager, director of project manager as well. And I have really grown into that space as far as, honing in on my skills. And this platform you have built with the Smart PMP, it almost seems as if with this platform and many other platforms that I've seen or read online, that the world is just vibrating in terms of women excelling in different industries. Yes. It just seems like the woman is on the rise.
Right. And I love it.
I do too. And you can almost just feel the energy. Like every time you see the first woman in this state to run for Congress or, what have you. And it just seems like everywhere you turn, women are just breaking the ceilings and dominating in spaces where people might have doubted us.
Yes.
Or didn't believe we could lead. That's what I think when I think of your platform as well. Like you are basically able to highlight women who are just doing it in project management in many different ways.
Goal.
Yes.
That's the goal of the platform.
So tell us more about the community that you've built through the Smart PMP.
So the Smart PMP was created because I couldn't find, as a project manager, and I've been working in the industry for about 20 years now, and I couldn't find any platforms that really highlighted and celebrated and connected women and women of color in project management. And so I create the platforms to, one, connect us globally, since project management is something that's done all around the world.
Yes.
And then also expose other women to project management, no matter what phase you are in your life, whether it's the beginning of your career or you're already established. It's something to really provide content and connect women. So that's why I started the platform.
Awesome. Congratulations. Oh my God. I'm just over the moon. When I remember when you first started your journey, and I don't even remember how I found you on social media. And I was trying to think back, and I'm like, how did I even find her to begin with?
Yeah.
And I might have just did hashtag project manager on Instagram before the algorithm, and I was able to find you. And I saw your profile, and it started off with just inspirational quotes, before you even launched officially. And I'm like, who is this? Who's this platform? Who is this woman? And I'm just over the moon, basically, in terms of what you've been able to create there. And, I can speak from a personal experience as a director that this platform is just dynamic, and it will continue to grow, I'm sure, because like you mentioned, there are a lot of industries where they're trying to adopt project management.
Yes.
And they didn't know that the formal title is project manager.
Right.
And they just know that the methodologies that they need to put in place into their jobs. Right. And they're like, oh, it's a project manager.
Right.
That's what I've been doing my whole career.
Right.
And I didn't know that's what I was called.
Exactly.
So, I mean, whenever I need a word of inspiration in terms of project management or just some motivational quotes when I walk into the office and pull into the parking lot, I see in the morning, there will guaranteed be a post about project management and just inspirational and motivational posts that you have. So how did you, I mean, you talked about there were no spaces for women and minority women in the industry. Is there anything else that helped you start the path of, okay, I'm going to start this now?
Yeah, well, one of the things was I wanted when I decided I was going to create something and I wasn't sure what, a lot of people would reach out to me, whether it was just... since I used to work with PMI, the Atlanta chapter, they would reach out to me individually and say, well, no, I want you to mentor me or I want you to consult me on this. And that was great, but then you only have so much time.
Yes.
And then I started getting a lot of people who would just reach out to me, whether it was social media or it was LinkedIn. And they would ask me a lot of questions, but a lot of them were the same things.
Oh, okay.
And it was more so around getting into project management, the industry, or PMP, taking the exam. They were thinking about it or just were curious about it. So I wanted to create some type of platform to just say, okay, I could just put this together and then people could just, they wouldn't need me one-on-one, but they can still have somewhere they can go that was kind of one-stop shop. And then I wanted to create something that I wish I would have had like earlier in my career.
Yes.
So that's kind of what brought me to say, okay, I don't know exactly what this is going to look like.
Yep.
Because I started out one-on-one consulting, but then that got to the point where it was, even in the industry, you're results driven. And then sometimes you would have somebody reach out and then sometimes you would give them all the information. And then sometimes they weren't at that point to really implement something.
Correct.
Or
they're just like fillers in terms, trying to figure out what they're trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Or so sometimes they would be overwhelmed, and so they wouldn't implement something. And so sometimes it was like, well, did you implement this or did you take that step? And then I had to realize people have to do it and you have to kind of give it to them in crumbs, sometimes depending on where they're at in their career. So I wanted just to create something that I moved away from the one-on-one consulting because then I had to have balance too. But then I decided, okay, I'm going to have something where, it's more of a membership, and I kind of evolved into the women's membership. And the majority of people who reached out to me were women. And women of color. So that's why I said, okay, well, this is probably where I should go then.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make it a membership because I didn't want to do the one-on-one consulting all the time because it was just taxing. And then there's only one of me.
Just one person. Yeah, yes. That's exactly what I was about to say. When it's just one person, it's hard to fulfill the need.
Yeah, it had to evolve. And so I said, okay, I'm going to kind of switch the business model a little bit and then do something where it's a membership, but then when they went to the member portal, they could connect with women around the world and see women, in project management all over the world and what that looks like to them. And it's not always a title of project management. It could be a business analyst, a systems analyst. It could be a director, project manager. It could be all different types of things. So I wanted to showcase the diversity.
Yes.
And women doing it. And I wanted to create this. So I created like the member portal.
Yeah.
So you can go in there, you can look, you literally see all the different women in different roles around the world. You see where they're at, you see their titles. And there's literally a button where it says meet this person so you can connect with them immediately.
Nice.
And you may say, I want to connect with someone in engineering, because a lot of people reach out to me now and with the platform and they say, I don't just want to meet with somebody in project management. I want them to be in engineering. And I want to see what that looks like for them so I can talk to them to see, do I really want to pursue this path?
Oh, okay, so specific industries.
Exactly. So they can do that too. They could see it in general. They could see the corporate life. They could see entrepreneurs. So they could see all this. But then there's also content there too. So it's just really a one-stop shop. And at the end of the day, if I would have had that early in my career,
yes,
I probably would have been able to avoid some of the pitfalls. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to create for someone else.
Yes, that's amazing. You basically were able to recognize the need in the industry for a specific genre or a specific set of women or people. Yeah. And that's just beautiful. Yeah. I think early on my career, had I had a platform like this sooner, then again, I would have been able to avoid some of those roadblocks or some of those mistakes as well. And I'm pretty sure women, because same here, I have people that reach out to me and say, hey, I'm just trying to get some advice. I feel like this is the track that I'm trying to go, or I'm trying to do a career change. And could you give me some pointers? And again, the whole results driven process, like, okay, I don't mind. But then when it's like constant, it's like,
then it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, now I'm going to start a consulting company or something.
Exactly.
Now, actually, I've been passing people over to the Smart PNP to get more information.
Well,
so hopefully you've got some memberships from that.
Yeah, I hope so. And I appreciate that.
Yes.
Because some of the people, so there's some, there's like a regular membership, but there's a business membership, and it's really just people who are like either PNP coaches, because again, I still want it to be a win-win for the members. And so I want them to be able to still have that one-stop shop.
Yes.
So there's entrepreneurs who are members, but then they're also able to help people in the community because they're PNP coaches or they're business coaches. There's image consulting coaches. There's branding coaches. There's a lot of different things in there to provide that value, and that's win-win for the members too, who may have businesses, but a lot of them started out the same way. People were just reaching out to them, and they had their PNP, and they're just asking them about different tips, and so they started like coaching businesses, and so that's why I'm like, okay, great, I could pass it on over to them.
Yes.
And then it's a win-win for the members and for them too.
That's awesome. Yeah. And just so people know, you do not have to have your PNP
to
join.
No. And you know what? I think sometimes people will reach out to me and they'll say, well, when should I join? Should I join after I get my PNP? And I'm like, no. Even if you don't want to get your PNP, it's just really for folks who are in the industry. So even if you're there's college students in the membership.
Yeah,
so
they're interested.
Yeah, they're just interested, and they just want to connect with people because they may think they want to go down this path, and they may want to do a whole different industry. So don't go through all of the schooling, because when I was in college there was no project management degrees. It did not exist. And so now people are getting their masters and their undergrad in project management, and don't go as far and wait till you graduate to try to say, okay, now I'm going to go out and start my career. Connect with people who are already doing it, who've been doing it for years. Some people who've only been doing it for a few years and they have a great perspective. People who've been doing it for 20 years, they have a great perspective. But reach out to them and get that knowledge along the way.
Yes.
And then if you do want to get your PNP, there's knowledge in there for you to at least have a straight road to say, okay, this is what I have to do. Or you can see like, okay, this is the road. It's all kind of mapped out in the membership, and that is not what I want to do. And that's fine too. You know, that's fine too, because everyone doesn't have a PNP and they are still successful.
Now, do you still work full-time and manage the Smart PNP? Because that's a lot to carry. What's going on?
I do both. I've been in all different type of roles in project management for the last 20 years, and I really do enjoy it. So I do have the platform, and I do work full-time. I work for major healthcare company, and I love it, and I love my clients, and so I still do that, and then I just try to balance that all with having the platform and still making sure that it has all the content and it's valuable to the members.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to you, because it's a lot to handle in terms of just me working on the podcast and also working on a full-time job. I definitely know the struggle that you're going through, or the highs and lows that you go through with just being an entrepreneur and trying to start an additional passion on the side as well.
And I feel like we can do both. Like it has to have a balance.
It does.
And that was one of the reasons why, out of necessity, but then for the members, but also for myself, that I had to change the business model. So sometimes people would just say, oh, I can't do it. And then they would just like close the business. Years ago, it used to be where you weren't considered an entrepreneur unless you didn't have a 9-to-5 and you had to quit it. And that just doesn't make that doesn't make sense all the time.
It does not.
And this sense it doesn't, they actually go hand in hand, because I'm a practicing project manager, and then I feel like I can continue to help people more, because even though it's a membership and people talk to each other and help each other out, I'll still step in there if I still see someone needs some help or some advice, because I love doing that.
Correct.
I just can't do that around the clock.
Correct.
But I love doing that and being active. But that just really helps everything.
It
because
does.
We're
it's
all
self-sustaining.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think it works to do both. It works for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in terms of planning, everything we just talked about in terms of, being able to handle both career and entrepreneurial passion. Today's topic is basically the art of planning and being able to, have a 9 to 5 and start your entrepreneurial business on the side, or follow your dreams of going back to the gym and actually committing to that goal of working out, or what have financial goals, what have you.
Right.
Planning is a key part of that, I believe. Some people would say different, but I think as long as you have the goal in mind and then you plan out what it is, just some mini steps. You don't have to have a full project plan like us project managers have. But you do have to have something in place in order for you to be able to actually execute what it is that you want to achieve. Right. So, just, Mediocre to Masterful is basically covering all those topics and morally in terms of planning. And we've all heard it before. A goal without a plan is just a wish.
It is.
Like, I don't know what genie bottle you're rubbing or what have you, but it's not going to happen if you don't at least have some type of outline set on how you think you will achieve that goal. Let's talk about why planning is important for success. What is the greatest misconception people have about planning?
Just like you said, you don't have to plan.
Yeah.
So some folks will say, okay, well, I want to get from point A to point B. Or they see people successful, like we're living in an Instagram world, right?
Yes.
So you see
microwave success.
Exactly. You see amazing people, and and the ones who are actually doing things, like not just making it look like they're doing things, but they're holding conferences. You see that they're planning for all of that, and so they can't get from point A to point B, and that's just with anything without a plan. And just like you said, even if you just have a blueprint or just an outline of this is what I want, and these are like step 1, 2, and 3 to do it. You don't have to have a project plan. I did create a project plan for my wedding.
I did too.
And I created one for when I was pregnant too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I have not yet.
If you need to.
Yes, you can share that when we start having kids and stuff.
And it's not necessary, right? But that's our comfort zone, right? But
yes.
It's not necessary. But it helps to at least have an outline.
Yeah.
Because you can, even if it's a small event, you can plan it, but if you don't think things out, you're stressed out.
Correct.
At least I know I am. And then it's not as great as it could be, because all those details, to me, all the beauty is in the details. So it's just the little things, and then people notice them too. But it really, you get the most bang for your buck. You get the best experience when you put at least a little bit of planning in things.
A little bit of effort.
Yes.
That's all it takes.
Yes.
Because I think people get so taken back by this instant success, the Instagram success, and think it's just overnight it happened that way. Because a lot of times I've seen some Instagram accounts and all you see is just the success part, but it's like they deleted all the photos beforehand. It's like, well, where'd you start though?
Right, exactly.
Please don't try to sell me on this dream that you started at the top right here, or other people.
Right.
And I'm smart enough to know, we're smart enough to know that's not always how it happens. Now, if you are privileged enough to have that, yes.
And I think you still have to start somewhere, no matter
you have to start somewhere.
Maybe the finances to do it, you still have to start somewhere. And I think some people, especially like you look on social media, either they try to sell you the dream, that they didn't start from ground zero, or they show you and you just see it, and you just assume that it was easy because they make it look easy.
Correct.
No matter how much they tell you the struggle is real and it was hard and there was a process, you still look at it and think, oh, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to start from that level. And that's not going to happen.
No.
Because you have to plan, you have to set goals. And then it just takes time, because you have to fail up. There's a lot of things that you're going to do, and that's a gift, to just kind of stumble, figure it out, and then learn from it, and then make it better.
Correct.
So yeah, but it all starts with planning. Somehow, some way, it's a plan.
It does. And I think, to the point of those misconceptions, that I truly appreciate the influencers who actually show the fail up part of their success.
Yes, exactly.
Because that is the reality of the process.
Right.
And I feel like some people will not actually go through the process because they don't want to fail up. They don't want to fail, which is another topic I've talked about before, but they don't want to fail. Or they think, well, I keep hearing that I need to create these plans, and they think they need like a laundry list.
Yes. And then they get overwhelmed when they do put the list together, then they say, oh no. And then they just kind of, think that they have to conquer everything all at one time.
It does not work that way.
It's just a process.
Yes.
So. But I mean, you live and you learn, because probably my whole entire 20s almost was all about, being so scared to fail. And then it's like, once you get over that, you just are so much more free you get so much more done.
Yes.
You accomplish a lot more because you know that it's going to happen.
Correct.
I'm going to fail at some point, and that's okay too. And it'll be all right.
And if we want to use project management terms, this is a risk assessment.
Yes, I know. Exactly.
This is a risk assessment.
I do say you need to take risks, but it needs to be calculated risk.
Correct.
Because there's no point in saying, you know what, I'm going to take a second mortgage out on my house.
No,
and
ma'am.
I'm going to invest it to a business that doesn't even have a business plan I haven't thought about. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just
you have to be strategic.
Pure foolishness.
Right. You have to be strategic, but you still have to take the risk, or you're not going to be able to accomplish really too much.
Yeah.
You're going to just kind of play it safe all the time, and that's really not a life that at least I don't want to live.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I had a conversation with someone about failing, and that, you sit down, you plan out what it is that you want to achieve, you be strategic about, the calculated risk and everything. It's almost like, you can't plan for the failures not to happen. Right. Something is going to go wrong, but as long as you have a plan in place, you kind of can navigate and kind of pivot like you need to.
Yes.
And in this conversation, we basically were saying that if I don't have some sort of mistake or failure, then I'm not growing in the process anyway.
Right. You're not doing it right.
Yes.
You're playing it way too safe then.
Yes. So I think the failing part should not be something people try to step back from, because it's just a part of the territory, and it's a part of the process in order for you to, once you get on the other end of success, you're like, man, I truly appreciate those moments, the wins, the highs, the lows, all that. Yeah. So, and when you plan your goals, just make them into manageable steps. They do not, like we said, have to be this list upon lists of information.
Right.
Just make them small, bite-sized, manageable goals.
And even in project plans, it's nothing, each line item, there's nothing that's like over the top huge thing to do. Yes. It's all like small, step by step by step.
Yep, just
and
baby
as you
steps.
close out every single one, then you've accomplished this huge project.
Correct.
So, and that's just everything.
Yeah. So with those step by steps and creating those baby steps in terms of what it is that you're trying to achieve, how important is it to place deadlines behind those steps as well, those goals?
It's important, because I find people who say, I don't want to put the plan together, and they put the plan together and they kind of like throw some things together, or maybe it's a really good effort. They write some things down, but then if you don't attach dates to it, it's still not a plan. Because if you say, okay, I want to do this, that, and other, that's great. You thought it through. That's great. You put some steps to it. That's great. But if you don't execute, like, there's so many great businesses out there that have never started because it was a great idea, but if you never execute it, then you still haven't done anything really. It's like you might as well not have put the plan together.
Correct.
So, and in executing, it's really just putting those dates to, okay, step 1 is going to happen this week to this week, or this month to this month, or whatever the case is. Even if it's just, I'm going to start step 1 in 2019. Just to make a step, because then when you start that first step, then you start gaining momentum, and then you start seeing that, oh, okay, I can do this, and it really is the difference between failing and a goal and really accomplishing and exceeding your expectations.
I totally agree. Like, you need to put some sort of date, even if you don't have a specific date, just put the month. Yeah. Just put, like you said, 2019,
and
put the year.
And
drill down from there, and then, everything will fall in line and in place from there, because here's what I think. If you can plan, your goal is to get to that Victoria's Secret semi-annual sale.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you know that date,
yes,
you will save your funds,
right,
or whatever the situation is. You will save your gas. You will make sure you put gas in your car the day before. You make sure you get to the one that's closest to you, or you go to the mall that's down the street because it's better and they got a wider option.
Right.
Like, you just plan. That's a project plan.
Yeah,
that was a goal.
And people make it seem like it's so hard, but it's not. You use project management in just about everything that you do.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess for the person who is still trying to figure out, why nothing on the vision board has come to pass, because everybody creates their vision boards in December, January time frame. They're awesome. I love them. Mine is sitting in the corner over there. But you also then have to take those and put like some backing behind it and say, okay, these are the items that I've put on my vision board. You don't have to write on your vision board, but pull out a Microsoft Word spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, or what have you.
Open up Note in your phone.
Yeah, in your phone. You don't even have to go that far. Yeah.
Just write it down. Yes. And just... I think when you just write down, whether it's something visual, because we're all visual learners, or something that you just write down and you keep it as a reminder, those things really do make a difference.
Yeah, they make a huge difference. And then
put some action behind it.
Yes, and that's the key. People, back to the microwave success that we mentioned, you can't just write it down and then push it off to the side and think it's going to happen later.
Put it under your pillow.
Yeah, put whatever your little thing is. You have to put action behind it.
Exactly.
Like what you hear? Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Mediocre to Masterful and on Twitter at M2Masterful. And when you check out our website, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter for freebies and information about upcoming podcasts and ways to master your goals. Okay, so everything we just said I think is awesome. And I hopefully it just helps somebody gain some clarity. But then we have some people who write off, well, I'm not a planner. I don't like to plan. I just don't think in that way. I have a friend that plans for me because she's awesome at it, and I just can't plan stuff. I don't even remember what happened yesterday, or I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I just do not plan.
Right.
Some would debate for those that know how to plan. They're just naturals at it. What would you say to those people who just claim to fame is, I'm not a planner?
I would say that I think we're all planners in one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, I am a type A personality, so I like to plan because it's my therapy. It allows me to
totally
control
know what you mean.
it, like channel all those control issues into a plan and then let it go. But I think we're all planners because, just like you said, even if it's like a, Victoria's Secret sale or, anything, you always make a plan for what you want. So everyone plans for what they want to do. But others will say, oh, no, I'm not planning. That's just because you don't want to plan for that. Or maybe somebody else may be good at it. But at the end of the day, you just don't necessarily want to plan for that.
Yeah.
And then there's also some people who just kind of, they don't take as much ownership. Because to me, when you're planning something out, it doesn't have to be something huge. But when you're planning something out, or you're a part of a plan in some type of way where you still have ownership of a certain process of it, you still get to, be the leader or provide some type of direction.
Yeah.
So some people want to just kind of ride along with it, but then it's never your vision,
Yeah.
But, some people, they love the process more than others.
Yeah.
But you will always plan for something, whatever it is. Even if it's, I'm going to buy a house, there has to be a plan. You can't they don't just hand you the keys, right?
Correct.
Or if you're buying a car, or even if you're applying to college, it's still a process.
It's still a process.
So we're all planners, no matter if you recognize it or not. It doesn't have to be as formal as others think, but everything is a plan to me.
Can you describe a moment where you might not have planned for something that you wanted?
Yes.
And how did that turn out?
A moment where I did not plan. Well, I guess it was a plan to not have a plan.
Okay.
So on purpose, after I had my son, after we had our son, I planned my career. I'm always, very A type, and I have to, have a plan for this year, plan for this quarter, whatever the case is, to make sure I have some progression, right? But for my son, when I had him, it was very different, and I was learning to like kind of let go a little bit, and I was still trying to move into that, role of, okay, what type of mother am I going to be? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for even my marriage, my career? And so I planned for, okay, the next 2 years, I'm not going to plan anything for my career. I'm just going to ride it out. And so not to say, I neglected my clients whatsoever.
Yeah, no.
But I just decided that I'm not going to look for any progression.
Correct.
I don't want to learn anything new necessarily where it's drastic, where I'm just steady climbing that ladder, because it doesn't make any sense for me.
You just wanted to coast at this moment and just enjoy motherhood.
Yeah, and I wanted to figure out what it meant for me for working and my career as a mother, and how long do I work remotely, so how long do I hold on to my son at home before I even hand him off to a daycare, and what does that look like, and all those different aspects.
These are all really good questions as well, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of women out there kind of in the same.
It changes things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
or new mothers, I should say.
Yeah, it doesn't, and even if you're just thinking about being a mother, because some people say, well, I'm going to hold off because I don't know what that has to do with my career, and you just really have to figure out, what do I want it to look like? Or I don't know, so I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a break. And so I'm not going to be so hard on myself. I'm going to give myself 2 years, because, even just that first year is just physically, not even weight loss wise, but hormones and stuff. Everything is still wacko.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Still just trying, and you have this new identity now, so you don't want it to turn into you're putting so much stuff on yourself so quickly, because you're still in that mindset of before you had a baby. But now you're not just woman, you're like superwoman now, because you just had a kid, and it's like a lot of different other things. Your priorities shift. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that you can't continue to progress in your career, but you have to be a little bit more strategic, because now you may not want to go back to that job, or you may not want to have that VP position anymore, because you don't want to be on call 24/7, whatever the case is. Right. So that was one of the times that I strategically just said, you know what, I'm going to plan to not plan, which is kind of a plan, but but I'm just going to lay low. It was a good one. Yeah, I'm just going to lay low. I'm not really going to, if I see a promotion, I'm going to choose not to do it right now, because I don't want that's added stress on me. I want to be able to, just kind of ease into motherhood a little bit. And so it taught me a lot. So I looked at my career a lot differently, and some things just had to be tweaked. It wasn't a bad thing, and I still progressed, but in different types of ways. So I think that's, a time where I, literally there were some opportunities that I had that I would have jumped on years ago and said, oh my God, you gotta, jump on that, job type or whatever. And I was offered, during that time I was still pursued. And I remember going to a job interview, and I was like, I said I wasn't even going to look at anything, but it was kind of like, well, this looks like a good promising opportunity. Yeah. And it was kind of in the middle of that 2-year mark. And I just said, well, let me just see. And I went to the interview, and it was a great title, and it was and I threw out a ridiculous salary, and they actually said okay. And I was like, okay. And then I thought about it, and before I even got home, I said, I'm not accepting it, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. After I kind of sat back and I had some clarity, because when you're not in the race of saying this title, that dollar amount, I was still comfortable. Me and my husband were still comfortable, but of course we always want to progress. We have that ambitious spirit, but it was like, it's not the right thing. It's not. I was working remotely. It would take me out of working in the home to working in an office, and then driving a commute like an hour, and then it was managing a huge team. I didn't want to do that either.
That would have been a lot more pressure on you than what you already were dealing with at your current job, in addition to having a child now.
Exactly. And so I said that would change things for me. And so I just realized that it wasn't even a hard decision. I came home and I told my husband. He was like, oh. And I told him about the money. He was like, oh. And then I told him I'm not taking it. He was like, I get it. Like, he totally got it, because he's like, because both of us now were like, okay, well, how does this impact our son? Is he gonna have to change schools? If you have a commute, like, doesn't make any sense for him to have a daycare right by the school anymore. Then it has to be. It was just too many different factors, and we both, travel, for stuff, for work too, and it was like, we have to make sure on both ends that it works for our family. So you think of things a little bit differently, that you would be surprised. I know a friend who, she had her second child, and she was an executive in sales, and she decided, nope, I'm not going back at all. And she was climbing, and it's maybe a year and a half later now, and she's happy. Amazing. And she would have never thought that she would have been like that years ago. Right. So you just don't know. You evolve. You know, do. Whether you have a kid or not. It doesn't even matter if you have a kid. But you just evolve, and you start, if you really take a step back instead of just, fighting for the dollar. All that'll come. It will. But if you just take a step back in your career and say, okay, they can give me the VP of whatever, but do I want this workload? Do I want to, be over 100 people, and do I want to be responsible for that? Do I want to be on call 24/7? Yeah. Do I want this? Do I want that? Do I want this? A lot of variables to consider. Yeah. And then you end up saying, well, I like this aspect of it, but not this aspect. And then you kind of wiggle your way into whatever role is there. So you can still get it. It just may not look exactly like you thought before. And sometimes you get to a certain position in your career and you say, I have said, I don't want my boss's job. I don't want my boss's job. I don't want this over here. And then it's time to shift over here a little bit. Yes. And that's why I like project management too, because it's not just that title of project management. But what I've learned over the years is I just want to be able to have the skills. I want to be able to have the network, the support to be able to shift. And I want options. I love that someone reaches out to me with an opportunity and I can say, you know what, I'm happy right here and I'm happy working on these type of projects, but thank you for keeping me in mind. I like that option instead of saying, oh, I feel like I'm pigeonholed over here, So I think that's one of the things that project management gives you. That's one of the things that the membership and just connecting with other women, because it gives you that, it opens up that world to say, you know what, I was thinking about this over here, totally different industry. Let me go find somebody over here. There's a woman in Australia. There may be somebody else in Spain or someone in Atlanta that may be doing what you find is interesting. Let me connect with them and ask them, how do you like that? That person may say, this is the things I like. These are the pros, these are the cons. And you may come out of it saying, nope, don't want to do that. Or you may come out of saying, I'm going to start planning to shift myself towards this industry. Correct. And that's the point, just to have options, just to have that insight.
Yeah. I think that's one of the many beauties of being able to have a plan in place is that you have your plan, you take your actionable steps that help you execute what it is you're trying to achieve. And then you realize, based on life circumstances, based on your own personal preferences, or based on what God is telling you to do in your journey, you will notice it will begin to shift or evolve in ways that you didn't think it was going to turn into, which in reality is the better route for you, but you would not have had realized that had you not originally sat down and took time to actually navigate your life's course in a sense beforehand. Exactly. And you will then receive these unexpected occurrences where getting job offers from left and right because now you have positioned yourself by planning, you have positioned yourself in a direction of success, and now you're starting to attract all these great opportunities, but now you have the upper hand. Yes. Because then you can pick and choose. You can pick and choose.
And that's where you want to be. You don't start your career off that way.
I think all of that is great. I don't think we've actually talked about how do you measure the success of your goals. I think one of them, based on what you just mentioned, is happiness. Yes. Like definitely. Being able to have a plan and come out on the other end feeling complete, feeling like you're not being pulled in 8 different directions, and having the ability to stop and say, yes, I want this opportunity based on what I've planned for. In this instance, we're talking about careers, but with anything.
Right. That's definitely how I measure it. I measure it that way a lot more these days. Yes. I think earlier in my career, and it's not bad to do, but to me, it wasn't the right thing to do for me. But I measured success by the dollar amount. This is a dollar amount I think I should be at. And it was just all that first, and that got me in trouble because I didn't have a husband and a kid or anything back then. But it puts you in a position where you may have accomplished that goal of that dollar amount, and of course we all have obligations, right?
Yeah, but I think that's a natural,
right?
Like,
but above and beyond that, and then you're doing something that you don't love, you're now dedicating your life and time that you'll never get back to something that is draining you, and that you don't like and you don't love and you don't have to do.
And that dollar amount does
not.
But
you're only focused on the dollar amount. So you could be making more than that doing something that you love, or at least something that you like, and then that could position you for something else that you actually love. So I think that's how I measured success in the beginning of my career. And I look back on now, I'm like, I get it, but,
it's just a part of growth as well.
Yeah, it's
like
a part
when you're
of growth.
younger, starting your career, it is about the dollar amount.
Yeah.
It's also about what you love and maybe what you've entered in throughout your college career. But it's like, okay, I've come out of school with $50K or whatever the number is. And you feel like you just balling out of control.
Right, and then those bills start hitting you, those student loans start hitting you, you're like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was.
And that's the part where you're just experiencing and you're gaining perspective basically on, my next career, I really want this. I said I wanted it in this first job. I wanted these things. Now I realize that's not really what I wanted.
And continue, but you have to recognize it and then tweak it. Now I measure success more of work-life balance. And so I love my career. I work in the pharmaceutical for my 9-to-5, and I've been doing that. And I work with these multi-million-dollar projects that, CEOs or HR directors are entrusting me with. Everyone in their company to implement this because it impacts everyone. And so the stakes are high. Sometimes they're nervous, but I'm able to execute it. And I love that whole process. But, I still want to make sure that I always still have that work-life balance. So there was a point where I was taking on way more clients than I should have. And it was just not enough time in the day. Yeah. And it was for multiple reasons. Sometimes you don't have a choice. You just have a huge load. And then sometimes, I got to the point where there were huge consulting companies and I was making really great relationships and they were seeing how I was executing projects and then they would request me by name.
Wow,
and so then
amazing.
And that's how I felt like, oh my God, that's amazing. I felt
so honored.
And I would say yes to all the projects. And I would look at it and I would say, how am I going to do all these projects? I don't want to jeopardize my reputation because I've taken on too much.
Very
and
true.
So I had to take a step back and say, that's great, but I want to continue for them to give me recommendations. They're not going to do that if my work, the quality is not there.
Correct.
And if I put my name on something, the quality has to be there. So what did that mean? That meant I was working very long hours for months and months at a time until it was executed. And then I told myself, that can't happen anymore.
It's not going to work.
Because I remember not this past year, but the year before that, I was working 12 and 14-hour days. And it was ridiculous. And I did it for about 3 to 4 months straight because I had a deadline and I had 6 huge clients and they were all hitting at the same time. I had to all execute at the same time. And I said, nope, not going to do it. And I said, you know what? I have to blame myself because I didn't push back. And I just said, yep, I'll take it. Yes, I'll take it. And sometimes sometimes you're the only woman and you're on a project. Sometimes you're the only woman, I'm the woman that's, executing the project. So everyone's listening to me, but you're the only woman, you're the only minority. And sometimes those factors come in because you feel like, oh, no. I can do it all. I can do all of it. But something is going to suffer. Yeah. Something's going to suffer. So I learned then that never again. And I can't blame anybody but myself on that one. So it's just more of that. My definition now is the balance. So when I do anything, when I take on projects in my 9-to-5, if I do the smart PMP, it has to make sense. It has to balance. I'm constantly recalibrating because I do not have it figured out. As soon as I feel like I have it figured out, then something happens, something comes up or whatever. And so, and life just happens. So I'm just always constantly recalibrating it, but I'm always looking at it through the eyes of it has to be a balance. Like if I take on a little bit of extra of this, how is this going to happen?
Correct.
So it always has to balance. It has to check off all the boxes of necessities, and you still have to pay me what I'm worth.
By the way.
Right, because that's
first and foremost.
Right, because I've earned that, and I know what my value is.
Mm-hmm.
But that box has to be checked off. But sometimes we fall into that, and I think as women too, of saying, you know, at least I know I come from my parents of that generation said, you better be lucky you have that job, you know, and well, you better be just lucky. And that's wonderful. I am grateful, but you can't be just lucky you have it. And, you know, and then if someone does give you a good amount of the salary that you expected and they give that to you, you can't say, oh, well, they gave it to me, and so now I'm so thankful. That's great. I'm thankful. But it still has to check off work-life balance.
Correct.
You still, even though you're giving that to me, now you do not own me for 14, 16 hours a day.
No,
that
ma'am.
can't happen either because I'm not even going to give you quality at that point. You know, it still has to be that balance. Yeah, it still has to be that balance. So, and it's one of those things that we kind of have content kind of carved out too in the membership, because it's things that still are important as women too. Yep. Not just women in project management, but just women too, of negotiating, making sure you negotiate. And
that is key.
And
I've heard that floating around a lot more often.
Yes, because, and the thing is, you know, sometimes I've had, you know, throughout my career, I've had them give me a salary and say, okay, this is what we're offering. And early in my career, I've taken it. Oh, great, okay. And then I learned, don't ever do that again. Yeah, don't ever do that. And then you have a pit in your stomach. And then there's other times where they've given me something that's too low and it's insulting. It's like, oh no. And you have to have different skills and negotiating skills, because it can't just be going off either. You know, there's a skill to it. And so those are some of the things that we put that content, because it depends on where you're at. I've had where I've been in a company and I've just changed positions, and the HR recruiter has told me, oh no, you're an internal candidate. You should not even be able to, you shouldn't even ask for more money. Why not? It's a higher position.
Correct.
And I've also learned that certain people, you know, the recruiter should have never told me that, because she's just the middle ground anyway.
Correct.
Nothing against recruiter, of course.
No, not at all.
But you have to understand everybody's roles, because some people will look at that and say, well, the recruiter said, and I shouldn't even, I'm embarrassed to even ask, because it's an uncomfortable conversation for everyone. But I said, no, I would like you to go back to the hiring manager who has the ability to give me the increase. And this is why I want to negotiate higher, because this is what this job demands. And then I was able to get more money. But if I wouldn't have had courage to do that before, or talked to different people and had mentors before, I would have been really intimidated.
Yes, so I kind of fell victim of that specific scenario with negotiating early in my career. And again, the HR was like, girl, no. Basically, I mean, she didn't say girl, no, but basically her laughter, her little ha, there's not, you're not getting that. Yeah. And me not having the right, you know, mentors or the right knowledge to then go back and say, no, this is what I feel like I should be offered. Can we please go with this? I just took it.
It's so important, because it impacts you for years to come. Yeah. And even most recently, you know, I had an opportunity where I put out a range out there of what I wanted and what I knew I would be happy with, and I got a little bit more. And so I said, okay, great, but I still had to counter and say, okay, well, let me counter $10,000 more. Only because we don't negotiate as women, and you can't leave any money off the table.
You cannot.
In my situation, it was kind of one of those rare situations that they really did give me, came in with the best that they could. We were under time deadlines, and they were trying to get it done. And I got that, and I thought it was fair. But you still can't, I was proud of myself, because even though they came back and they said, well, the recruiter came back and said, well, no, that was their best offer. I was still happy with that. But the fact that I asked, because what if there was $10,000 more on the table? You know, a man is never gonna hesitate. He's gonna counter back. And that's why it's still good. It's good to surround yourself with women who've been there, done that. But it's also good to surround yourself with men too, because a lot of times they don't care. They're just gonna be like, nope, that's what I would have did. So they're gonna mentor you
they're
to
gonna keep it
what they would do anyway.
Correct.
So it's good to have that, you know, all around, you know, perspective.
Yeah, and I agree with the measure of success that you mentioned in terms of the work-life balance.
Yes.
Because at one point in time in my career, I was that person working like 12, I don't know about 14 hours, but like long hours at work, you know, working at home, checking my emails all the time, like always online. And during that time period, I was like on my phone like late hours of the night, answering emails at midnight. And to what end? To what did that serve me? And the more people
they can get out of you, the more they'll continue to ask you for more and more and more.
Yeah, that didn't serve me anything. And, you know, I look back on it, I'm like, why did I commit so much of my own time that I could have been sleeping for one? Or doing other things. Anything. And that really could have just been handled when I came to work the next day.
I've, seen emails come through and I've said, I'm not going to answer it. I'll answer it tomorrow. I remember a consultant asking me, I was taken off for a few days because I was preparing and leaving out of town for my son's first birthday party. And she asked me, can you push this back? I said, you know what? I don't usually mix personal and business, and I'm thinking as another woman, I said, I'm going to just be transparent with you. And I called her, just me and her. So I'm just going to be transparent. My son's first birthday is coming up. I've had this planned months and months in advance. I've let you know the project we are ahead of schedule. And I said, and I will be taking this time off, but I just want to kind of give her a little insight. So maybe you could just relate to me as a woman, because nothing else was working with this woman. And she was just one of those rare outliers that was just difficult to work with. And she did not want it. She tried to escalate to the executives, and they let her know, listen, no. There's nothing that you can do. She's going to leave out and she's going to be out of the office. There's nothing wrong with your projects whatsoever. You're ahead of schedule. So what is the problem? She couldn't say anything. That was just her thing. But people will test you. Not everybody, but you're going to get those one-offs that's going to sharpen your negotiating skills.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's like, no, man, we're not going to do that.
Oh, yes.
That's what we will not do.
That is not a compromise. No. That is not a compromise.
Some people, most people get it. They're human. They get it. And they're over the top, really just accommodating with it. That's just 9 times out of 10 what happens. But then when you have that one outlier, you have to, people like that are the reasons why you just have to have boundaries.
Correct.
Of course you could send an email out at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And then this same person will send me emails at 10 p.m. and say, and I need an answer by midnight.
Oh, no ma'am.
No ma'am.
Who are you?
Yes. No ma'am.
In my dreams, I can send it to you.
So we have to have some really good conversations to really connect, to let you know. So this is what's going to happen, this is what's not.
Yeah, we need real boundaries at that point. Now, the lady that was like, no, I need this project before your son's first birthday, she had some other things going on.
She had other things.
She had
a
lot.
It was very obvious. I was like, nope, but it's not going to be my thing. Yeah.
But that is a great example of when you are following your course and you're going down the right direction, and in this case, you are ahead of schedule, but any plan, insert any idea or goal into that scenario.
Yes.
You will have 1 or 2 or more people that will try to derail you from the plan that you set out. And you just have to be able to pivot, know when you need to, exit those people from your life, or, just drop some that could be a friend.
Yeah.
That could have been a friend that, not in the case of I need this project delivered,
right.
but that could have been a friend, and that person is trying to derail you from the plans that you have set in place. And that comes with the territory.
Yeah. Yes.
It comes with the territory. That's very interesting. But, that makes me also think about, because we're talking about work-life balance and just being able to have the mental capacity to handle a lot of the things that you want to achieve, because it can be tiring. You will run into people like the woman we just described who are going to try to derail your plans, and it can be exhausting when you're trying to go after whatever it is that you're trying to do, and which in my mind plays into the wellness about planning. We talked about boundaries, having boundaries set up. And I think we're both really good at planning. We know how to now set time for, risks, set time for boundaries, set time for the actual plan, the actual execution. And I think one misconception that people have about me, because I am such a type A person, I'm a plan out everything. I also planned my wedding. They have this idea that I'm always busy.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, because I just basically know how to maximize my time.
Right.
And I know when to insert time for just absolutely nothing.
Right.
And be brain dead,
Right,
or,
right.
watch Netflix for a couple hours
Right.
because I've planned everything I needed to do.
Right.
But more importantly, I just know how to make time for self-care and wellness. Do you add self-care and downtime as part of your regular plan?
Yes. And I learned the hard way. But with having the 9 to 5, that's pretty demanding, satisfying, but demanding.
Yes.
And then having the platform and all the responsibilities that come with that. And then also being a wife and a mother. So all of that
Many
is
hats.
like all full-time job within it, individually. So I've learned to really, I have to bake in that time for downtime. And then for me, it all has to go together. So personal stuff in there with business stuff in there, because it all has to go together, because it's all the same 24 hours, right?
Correct.
So
the same 24 hours as Beyonce.
Exactly. Exactly. Without all the help.
Right. Exactly.
So I have to do that. Me and my husband had to come up with a schedule and recalibrate. And one of those things was, we alternate Sundays. So one Sunday is here, like this Sunday is his. And then I have the other Sunday. So that doesn't mean I go off and do my own thing and he does it. But it does mean that if I want to plan something, I can plan something.
Okay.
Usually if we have an event or something in the house, we have to both say, okay, are we on the same page of this? But if I want to say, you know what, if I wanted to, I could schedule a brunch, just a few hour brunch every Sunday that's mine for the rest of the year if I wanted to.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I leave the house or abandon my kid or my husband. But it means that if I do want to do something, I consciously make sure that I use my Sunday to do it. It still may be a family day, but we know that we have that out. We have that pass. Nope, I need some girl time. Because before we did that, I would get to the point where I would be, especially after I became a mother, I would be so stressed out and not even realize it. And I hadn't done anything for myself for months and months at a time. And one day my husband just literally went through my phone, texted all my friends and was like, listen, you guys are all going to go to dinner and I'm giving her money and I'm paying for all of it. Get her out of this house before she drives me crazy. I'll keep the baby.
Oh
Get her out of here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to,
you
don't want to
make
get
time.
to that point.
Yeah.
So it was to that point where you're snipping at each other or you're just so stressed out and you don't even realize that we haven't had a date night, or I haven't had a massage, or I just haven't had some silence where I don't want to share my food with my kid right now. I just want to have my own meal.
Right.
So, we put that in and we try to put something in weekly and definitely monthly. So there's different things we have to have our date night. We have to have, whoever Sunday it is for that week. We have to make sure that we plan and there's a babysitter because we need a date night without a kid there. It's like, it's little things, but it's things that really do help because
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes you better in every aspect of your business, of 9 to 5, of your relationship, because in the midst of all this, I'm still trying to grow a career. I'm still trying to grow a business. I'm still trying to, continuously be a great mother, a great wife. And after a while, if you're not conscious of all that you have to do those little things so it doesn't become this big deal later, that you have to really bake that into, even if it's just once a week, it seems small, but then you realize later, like, okay, I'm calm.
Yeah,
I can do this, and you really are equipped with, that mental capacity of you can take things on, or you can just handle things.
Yeah.
So
I think that is so key to have just a moment to check out.
Yes.
Individually.
Yes.
But then I think what the point that you just made was it's also important for couples to also know this is my time and this is your time.
Right.
And let's just, check out for a few moments because we need it. We really do need it mentally.
Yes.
Or we're going to go to each other's necks.
Yeah. And
then you add, new parenting.
Yes.
You guys are new parents now that, it's, we need these times.
Then it's totally different because it's like, okay, now you don't want to have like this identity crisis, but you have these mini identity crises. Like, okay, well, Am I being a good wife?
Yeah.
Am I being a good mother?
Yeah.
Am I being a good business person? Am I being a good leader on this project? And it's like, then you start feeling like life is pulling me in so many directions.
And I don't know where it's going.
And then you're going to have a full breakdown.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you just break it down little by little, I hate to say it, but when you have a kid, then you start having this mom guilt, and that's a whole nother factor. But if you try to bake these things in, then for me, it's kind of ease things.
Yes.
Because it's just like, okay, because you don't want baby to be taken care of. Then the husband's looking in the corner looking like, well, what about me?
What about this baby?
Right.
What about
or
me?
Everybody's taken care of, and then you feel like you're about to, I would say, today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it.
Oh,
no. And you don't want that.
No.
So now, it helps.
Yeah.
You still have to recalibrate.
Yeah, I think that is very key. And you always hear this term, especially for people who are business owners, entrepreneurs. I'll sleep when I die.
Yeah, I don't believe in that anymore. I used to say that. That's ridiculous.
I think I will put a time once upon a time ago. I used to say that as well before I knew about life. And I just got older and I enjoy my sleep.
Yeah.
And you can't pour from an empty cup either.
No.
Like, it is not going to work. You've been heads down on something from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to the point where you don't even know what time of the day it is. Exactly. And you can't tell because you don't know if it's sundown or sundown.
Right. And then you're not useful to anybody.
You're just not. You're not contributing to the world in a positive manner at that point because you are functioning on low fumes, basically. Exactly. And you just have to take a moment, create those self-care days, whatever your plan is. Get up, pedicure, exercise. Exercise helps a lot.
Yes,
get some sleep.
Yeah.
And if your goal is to amp up your self-care, then that should be easy for you just to take a moment to yourself and make that a plan to take half a day on Sunday or whatever Saturday or whatever it is. What makes sense to you for you just to have those moments to just exit from life's madness, basically. Asya, I think we learned a lot today. I think we learned and covered a lot of great things in terms of the art of planning, when planning doesn't go according to plan, and then just wellness being baked into your plans as well.
Yes.
Being able to take those moments to just get quiet. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting
me. And in
me.
sharing all this great information with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, Mediocre to Masterful is online. Visit mediocretomasterful.com to listen to our podcast or find us on iTunes. Share this episode with those you know in need of motivation. Through our site, you can join our Masterful email list to get freebies and helpful information. We're also on Instagram at Mediocre to Masterful and Twitter at M2Masterful. Thanks for listening.